you doing out there, guitar heroes? All right, today we're going to work on bar chords. And the first bar chord form that we're going to use today, or we're going to get started with anyway, in my series of bar chord lessons, is the E major form. And so we all know what an E looks like. So let's zoom in and take a little closer look at the E form bar chord. To get started, we're going to take our standard E chord and if you need a little help on here, we've got our first finger is going to be on the third string up from the bottom. That'd be the G string, and then the other two fingers come on the second fret here on the D and the A strings. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do here is, instead of using our first three fingers, we need to use our second, third, and fourth fingers to form that same chord. So that's our first thing that we need to do. Now, to play bar chords, obviously we need some techniques, and I did a video here a while back on 6 techniques to help with bar chords. So we'll quickly review those during this lesson as well. But the basic concept here is I'm using these 3 strings, and then I'm going to slide this up to whatever position that I want. And let's just say I want to be at the 3rd position. I'm going to just lay this finger down behind the fret. So I want to be behind the fret, not on top of it, but very close to it. And then I want to try to roll my finger a little bit if I can to kind of get on that bonier side rather than on the flat side. So rather than it's flat, roll it a little bit, and keep in mind these strings are already pressed down. So you don't really need to get these strings. You need to get the ones that aren't pressed down, which would be the big E and those last 2 ones. Okay? So we're just going to roll that finger just a little bit, and then I'm going to have my finger, my finger lined up with my thumb. So you can see my thumb is lined up with the finger, and I'm putting pressure, pushing, squeezing between the two so that I can hold those strings down. And that's the sound that you're looking for. Okay, so obviously this takes some practice, but the starting point is to get that finger down and to try to get enough pressure with your thumb on the back to be able to kind of get that sound. Now you notice when I was doing this, I did a lot of scratching. Well, I was kind of releasing the pressure, and I was getting that, so, and then I'd release it. And that's a technique that you can get to down the road. But so that's the first thing that we want to do, is we want to get that finger there, get enough pressure on so we can get a nice clean sound. Now it's not perfect, that's okay. You just keep, you can't keep working on it. So the concept other than that is to be able to use the bar chords to play in positions where you can't do an open chord. So as an example, if we like this fingering, and I'd rather just slide this around, I can find many chords, and I can play the whole song basically with just this form, sliding it back and forth. So let's learn the big E notes to determine where we are. So we know that an open E, okay, and our big string is an E. So what's the first fret? It's an F. So we know if we did a bar chord there, I'm getting an F. Now, this is the most difficult bar chord because the strings are the closest here. So you don't probably want to practice initially up here. You're probably more frustrated. So as we go down the scale, we get an E, F, and then our next one could be a G flat or an F sharp. And we move up one more, and we're at a G. One more G sharp, one more A. A would be at the 5th fret. One more, an A sharp or B flat, and we go up one more, which would be at the 7th fret. Now kind of look at the dots along here, that kind of helps a little bit. Usually there's a dot at the 3rd on the side here or on the front, and that's going to be a G. We go up 2 more, it's an A. We go 2 more, it's a B. Go 1 more, and it's a C. Now generally that's about as far up as you want to go. because otherwise the frets get very narrow up here, so it's a little bit harder to play. So we have all of these notes, F, G, A, B and C, that we can play in a song without even changing this form. Okay, so let's try just a little bit of, once we kind of get the form laid out, and we think we can get some reasonably good open sounding strings, and then what do we do as far as a strumming pattern? Well, we can kind of do whatever we want. Here's a couple of techniques. I'm just hit it and I release the fingers. I squeezed, released. Or just a plain, I'm holding it down and a strum. Now, one of the things you want to do with strumming is always keep this hand close to the strings. You don't want to be out a long ways away and be kind of wild. You want to kind of stick straight. And to get that little scratching sound, I'm releasing the pressure on here and I'm dragging my hand a little bit on the strings as well. But we can do lots of practice here to kind of get our muscle memory set up for the bar chords. So I'm never changing my form in this case. I'm just going to be using that E form. Then you see I could just roll right on down to that open E to keep that in there. So you can get all kinds of good techniques without really having to worry so much about always having it a clean sound, because I'm lifting and scratching part of it. I just squeeze. So the first thing is probably just to start that form probably up around the 5th fret. It's probably the easiest to press down, or the 7th fret, the B. A little bit easier to get your fingers in there. That's probably what I'd start with. And then I just, start working on some strumming, and this is going to get you tired out probably pretty quickly, because you're going to be squeezing with the thumb down here. So don't worry about it if you're tired. After about 10 minutes, that's just the way it's going to be the first couple times. I kind of hang on one spot for a while, but I also get used to this sliding. So over time, you're going to build up your speed. The first thing to do is kind of get the form and the muscle memory there. So kind of stay in one spot for a little while. Just a couple of examples of what you can do with the strumming pattern, and over time that's just going to get a little bit better and a little bit better. So the first thing is try to get the form, and obviously the big issue. Let's just say that you can't get the pressure on. What's it going to sound like? It's going to sound like that. You can't get the pressure on. So get that thumb right behind it. I'll show you one more time here. Get the thumb right behind that finger. Get the finger right behind that fret and press. Press that finger down flat. And you can see my finger's not even flat, because I'm trying to get the big E and I'm trying to get these two little strings over here. I'm not trying to get these in the center, so it's actually rolled a little bit to the right, rolled a little this way. Now you can probably see a little bit better. Rolled to the right, and then trying to get the fat part of that finger, or the edge of the fat part, on those two strings, as well as this one right here. And even if these things aren't perfect every single time, it's still okay. It's still okay at first, because when you're strumming, you're not, the big strings are what's really driving it, not this. it's these. And that's where these fingers are right here. That's just that squeezing and release the pressure. So you can really experiment a lot with this strumming pattern, from really slow drag it out as opposed to pounding on it, so to speak. Okay, so just a quick review. We're going to use the last three fingers. We want to get that bar down right on top of the fret, but slightly behind it. We want to roll the finger just a little bit. It does help a lot if you use lighter strings. I would recommend you're playing an acoustic guitar, use the lightest strings you can get. They're the 10s. 10 is your lightest string, 0.10. If you're playing electric guitar, it doesn't matter because they're probably going to come with 9, so they're nice and light. Again, practice up in this area to get started with, because that's going to be the easier way to press the strings down. And then one other tip is you can tune your guitar down a half a step as well, and that loosens the strings up to make them a little bit easier to press down. So sort of the same concepts you have with open chords. You know, your fingers are going to hurt for a while, right? Because that's the deal here, right? We're going to push down on those strings. The easier they are to press down, the better. So the lighter the strings, if you tune down a half, that helps. And then certainly if you get your guitar set up so that your strings are as close to the fretboard as they can be without buzzing. If you get buzzing up here, then you know that the strings are a little too close. And typically you got to bring that into the guitar store to do that. So hopefully you got something out of this lesson. Let's start practicing on that E form. And you can use upstrokes, E strokes only, or just downstrokes. You can release the pressure to make it to stop, or you can let it ring out and hold it down. And in no time, you'll be able to start moving up and down the neck and get some good sounding bar chords. And then you can move on to the other bar chords in my series. We're going to be doing also the E minor bar chord form, and then we've got A minor form, and then we also have an A form. So those are the four basic types of forms that we use with bar chords. All right, well, thanks for watching the video today. I hope you got something out of it. Take it easy out there, and we'll see you next time.